do, or we move, or we try to, because to create another policy doesn't, we have a process. The process is not being followed. So my question to Attorney Zach, for these 3 developments, the mayor says he doesn't have enough time to focus on these 3 developments to get us the information that the companies need to submit, irregardless if the mayor is standing there or not. He should be able to go into a file and copy the information. Now, Ms. Attorney Zach, with us not having civil engineering plans for these 3 developments, what is how can we proceed?
Well, if they haven't complied with our current codes, then we can send letters asking them to cease and desist their operations until they have complied with our regulations. If they continue to do work out of compliance with our regulations, then you have the authority to, depending on what it is that they haven't complied with, either file a complaint or issue citations in municipal court, or go to district or county court to enjoin them from their operations.
All right. Now, so since that's the process,
Well, it makes one assumption though, counsel. Attorney Zach said if they're in violation of something, and if they're in violation of our process, if they're at a point, Campus Edge is building, if they don't have one, I agree with what he said. Campus Edge. The gates at Prairie View have not started building well, they did lay some wood and then they stopped 2 weeks ago. So to send a cease and desist, please make sure you know what you're basing it on so that we don't look as crazy as this is sounding.
Mr. Mayor, and I'm glad you brought that up because you're trying to defend them already. All I simply asked is if we don't have the current documents needed. See, so you defended them already. I asked if we don't have the current documents that is needed for a developer to move forward. If we have them, then there's no problem. But you started trying to defend them already. So my simple request is that if we don't have, and then even the state requirements for some of the other things that they're doing on the Santee property, have they followed, those documents? We have we have a process, and the process is not being followed. So when you talk about cease and desist, is that we would have to have an additional meeting? Do we have to have an investigation to find out if we have the documents? Because it sounds like the mayor saying he doesn't have the documents. He doesn't have enough time to find us the documents because he's busy.
You're stating things I haven't told you.
You told us you was busy and you weren't going to get us the documents. That's what you just said.
Yeah, I didn't say that they didn't exist. There's a difference.
So we can request so we're saying, Attorney Zach, when we're talking about documents that are public documents, and if City Council requests those documents, what should happen?
They should receive the documents.
Okay. And is that I shall?
Yeah, no, each individual council member, based on their council position, is entitled to the documents necessary to do their job.
And so, since we're sitting here again, talking about the same inspection report from Panther Hill from a year ago, now we have 2 other developments. What process should we take from now, because we just talked about this last meeting, from now, moving forth, if we do not get those documents, moving forth and sending a letter to cease and desist until those companies send the city of Prairie View and city council the documents, since the mayor doesn't have them, to make a decision on whether we...
I could request the documents
Okay.
from the individual companies. But if they're available in the city, it'd be a lot cheaper for them to be just provided by the...
I agree. Ms. Johnson, would you do me a favor and have Ms. Cortez, who mostly oversees the permits, pull the permits that we have on these 3 situations and the status thereof? Can you have her do that tomorrow?
Okay. I want to say she did that a couple weeks ago at our last meeting, and that's how we got the information that we have today. So just to...
No, not permits. These are
No.
inspection reports.
No, we
don't have any permit.
She gave us
paperwork
permits.
up here.
She gave us permission.
She gave us...
Oh, so you already have it?
Again, and we're saying that the permits you say we have only have your signature on it, and it should, and you gave us a copy of the permit page and the check. That's not the information we're talking about. We want to see the reports, and I'm asking council, our legal counsel and city council, if we don't get the reports in the next 10 days, that all these projects be shut down until we got the reports and we say, you know what, they all passed this inspection or this and this. But that's the mayor. Mayor, we're on the same page. We want them to be here.
We're not.
And so so Attorney Zek, where are we at in our process? What do we need to request, right? Because if we request it through you, it's gonna cost us money. We're saying right now, we should have she has a folder, and what was provided to us was a copy of the application, 1 page. Had only the mayor's signature and had 2 or 3 contacts for the people who are doing plumbing, construction on the application. Then it had a check. Those are the only 2 documents that we had that was given to us. I am asking for a copy of the civil engineering stamp or letter that says, hey, you have to have a water line, a sewer line for this many buildings, this, and this, that they should have already.
That should be a stamped
Set of plans.
set of plans and plat.
And we have that. Last time council asked about Panther Hill, I brought the 2 rolls up here, nobody wanted to look at it. But
We
they
have
are not understanding the process.
Who was standby?
Hold on,
Who was
hold
standby?
on, hold on, council.
I looked through all the
You didn't
special
even
reports.
look, we're not talking reports. You didn't even hear what the city attorney just told you. The process and the way these folks do business, they stamp the actual plans showing we've done this, or they write up what needs to be done and that sort of thing. But all those big rolls of plans up in there, guys, you're welcome to come see them.
There's a summary sheet, just like there's a summary sheet from the big plans
Right, there should be,
that we should be able to have. That's not 100 pages. That's a 1 or 2 page doc. I'll let the attorney say.
there should be, the way the process works, and I'm not an engineer, I'm just a lawyer that plays an engineer on TV sometimes. The way the process should work is that if someone's doing a project, they should provide you stamped, engineered, construction drawings, and, which would include the water and sewer design issues. That document, those documents should go to the city's engineer, whoever that happens to be. And they should review them, and they would provide comments, like is in this letter, and then they would go back and fix it. And then, I don't know how y'all do it, but either 1 or 2 things would happen. Once it's finalized, either the city engineer will sign off on those actual documents, so there's not a report or anything, but the city's engineer's signature would be on those construction drawings saying they're approved, or you'll get a document where they've given them a letter that says, you know, we reviewed and they're finally approved. I don't know which way you do it, but those are the
There's
2
some
ways.
emails or something that
Well, I would suggest
references
it
what
be
you're saying.
be more than a letter, or it should be, in my mind,
but
it
that's
should
that
be.
back and forth process, but.
Right,
yeah,
no,
we can provide
but
that.
we should have a signature on a set of drawings by the city engineer, or not emails, but an official letter from the city engineer or whoever's performing that function saying they just signed off on it. That's what we need.
Do we have that, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so when will we get that document?
We'll see about having Ms. Cortez put that
All right,
together
and
for you
so-
as soon as
All
tomorrow.
right, so in that document, that is one of the documents we're talking about. So we have a letter, we have stamped plans or a letter from the engineering firm that looked at the water, sewer, and drainage for these 3 projects.
Got a question?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what we've been using Trilogy and LJA for, guys, the civil part. Yes, sir.
My question is, to the cycle in which it looks like possibly that we might repeat, how, and I'm sorry, council or how could, how is Santee able to post leases of a project that hasn't started?
That's a process. The university does the same thing. It barely broke ground.
That's not unusual. I mean,
Yeah, it's
they,
construction.
especially like for apartment complexes, they'll start pre-leasing stuff way before they get certificates of occupancy.
Just like a
The
house.
the issue is they can't move people in until they get out, they get there. But so let's assume,
So our students could pay the.
happens all the
money
time.
that they don't have, like,
That happens
August,
all,
and then be
happens all the
stuck.
time. Happens all the time.
I just asked
Especially,
you
no,
that
no,
way
no,
to put
happens
that.
all the time in apartment complexes. Those things get like apartment complexes, they get pre-leased well before a COO is issued. And then, because they've got, if they're professionals, they've got a schedule that they've got set, that they know that they should have their CO by the time they're gonna open.
Well,
I don't know the answers to those questions. But if they don't meet their timeline, the city doesn't have any role in that. If they don't meet their timeline and they pre-leased, that's that's a contract between the apartment owner and the person who entered into the pre-lease. But the city's not involved in that.
I move that we move this, item agenda to following meeting with the, information that council has asked for.
Second.
it's been probably moved to second that item 11, discuss an update on the most recent Bureau Veritas inspection reports for Panther Hills Apartments, the Gates at Prairie, and Campus Edge Apartments.
I have
Move to the
unreadiness.
next city council meeting. You've heard the motion, ready for the
I have
question?
unreadiness.
Councilman Rowland?
Could we add also engineering?
You want to accept that friendly amendment?
So engineering and Bureau Veritas?
Well, Bureau Veritas is a part of the motion.
Right,
Bureau
and I'm
Veritas
asking,
inspection reports are.
right, I'm asking to add the word engineering in addition to Bureau Veritas. And then my second unreadiness is that, we've been down this road. Can we put a 10-day, can we put a time period on if this doesn't happen, that we issue a letter? Like, we've been down this road before, this,
That's what I'm saying, next meeting, we meet again in 2 weeks, that gives them 2 weeks to.
right, but then that, but what I'm
That's
saying,
10 business days.
what I'm saying is, in addition to the motion, that if we come and we don't have all the proper documentation of our processes and what we ask for, that the next day a letter be issued, or you, because we couldn't be able to do that at the next meeting.
You add an action item, you
Yeah.
add an action item to this item to where if it's not done, then.
Correct, that's what I'm trying to add now, and not wait 10 days and then try to do it again. If the 10 days should fall within each other, there should be some action, and so Attorney Zek,
Or I meant, as you just say, discuss and possibly take action on the item in which you're talking about, we don't get it. So that way it's on the agenda, and if we don't receive that information, then you can take action on the item.
could we take, Attorney Zek, could we take action based upon that, or what we needed to document what action may need to happen? What would you suggest?
I would prefer to be a little more specific or something like that. Under normal circumstances, I would agree.
Maybe a separate motion to be clear.
Well, it would discuss an update on most recent Bureau Veritas inspections and engineering reports, correct?
Yep.
For Panther Hills Apartments, Gates Prairie View, and Campus Edge Apartments. And then, second agenda item, immediately after that, it says discuss and consider giving direction to staff or staff
Attorney.
and/or the city attorney regarding issuance of
Cease and desist.
cease and desist, something like
If proper documentation
that. Right.
is
Yeah,
not
y'all can make that.
provided.
That'd be a
Okay.
second motion.
That'd be a
Call for
second.
the question.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed have the same right? Ayes have it. Yes,
I
Councilman.
also move that we move item, 14, on the agenda tonight.
It's been properly moved and seconded that council will discuss item 14 next in line. All those in favor? Opposed have the same right?
What happened to the motion
Ayes have
that
it.
you just told us? Should have went second.
So you make that new business, which.
Yeah.
Okay.
It said that, yeah.
So, Councilman Randall? And maybe let me help you out with this, because Mr. Hall and I have been dealing with this for a minute. And there was just some discrepancy early on, mostly on my part. And Mr. Hall has basically gone back and, per the pictures, and they didn't show which street, so I really couldn't go check them. But didn't really have the time, but we want to get you your money. And
Thank
if we could get a councilman to volunteer to work with Mr. or Mrs. Hall, just to confirm the work was done on those streets, we can write that check as soon as tomorrow, or the next day. Would you, Councilman Jones? Okay. Well, you wanna do
I
it?
can do it, I can get you tomorrow afternoon.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so if you'll get him the pictures and the original invoices showing the streets, he'll match them up and just show the trees were cut, and that would take care of
You want
Mr. Hall.
to drive the neighborhood, it's not,
You
really
can-
not that long.
However you wanna do it, I'm free
Yeah.
after about,
I've done this thing 2 times. I've took pictures. I think you got about 16 different pictures. And, what we need to do, it's been a year ago.
you can call me, tomorrow afternoon, I'm free after about 1:30, 2 o'clock, so however you wanna do it, we can make it happen.
I need to get your number.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Also, since you gave me invoice, the ones that you circled with the total is the amount of work that, in which you.
Those have been paid. There's some additional neighborhoods that have not been done.
All right, so the okay meaning it was paid and the ones that's not
Yeah,
circled.
the mayor, he cleared those, but the one that's some additional, neighborhood has not been done, which I don't think is fair to the citizens. We're gonna pass around. We got, right behind the old bus station, the neighborhood never been done because, it was at a standstill, so we couldn't get money, so we quit working.
Right, so, I mean, going forward, it's a little bit different business than how we take care of what's done in the past,
Right.
so, that's an administrative deal, so.
So what I'd like from council on item 14 is once Councilman Randall and/or Jones confirms that the work was done on the streets that Mr. Hall has verification, then Ms. Jones be empowered to write the check to pay those invoices immediately.
Okay, so, just for clarification, the total number for the work that you have completed is what?
We want the outstanding invoice like $6,100.
6,100?
Oh, this it right here, right?
Let's see.
This,
I think one of those is, like, work was completed, my wife, she did the layout. Let's see, this is, right here, this is address, not work that hasn't been done. The mayor pre-ordered, but we never get it. Neighborhoods that haven't been completed. The work that, usually it's different when we did different.
All right, so.
Free invoices.
All right, so I just wanna make sure that you're right. 3350 on one invoice, right? The second invoice is, what is that?
2050,
2,050.
and the last is 700.
All right, then 700. And so, all right, cool, I'll just make it easy, John.
Can we get a motion to get that taken care of once confirmed?
was the motion.
On item 14,
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Randall.
I move that we, take action on the payment of Mr. Joe Hall for county services.
Second, someone?
Second.
Okay. It's been properly moved and seconded that the city council take action on the payment from Mr. Joe Hall for tree services. You've heard the motion, ready for the question? All those,
I'm ready.
I'm ready, let's go ahead.
I think we should frame it somewhat to what the mayor said, once either you or I, check and see that he get his invoice of 61.
Yeah, and he's got the streets there, so it should be pretty easy to follow.
So I'll amend my motion to say that we take action on payment of Mr. Joe Hall in lieu of inspection of the city work for the total of $6,100.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed have the same right. Ayes have it.
I do have a question. Okay? On the, you see on the print out, on neighborhood matter that we did, that was on this list right here. This list, Dickie did, the one that she done. There's some neighborhoods, like I said, that hadn't been done. Price basically the same thing like, Sycamore, Prairie, over in neighborhood right behind the old bus station.
Right.
Uh,
Well, we know we got a whole city
You're
there.
talking about future, you talking about.
yeah, for the future. This
So-
neighborhood ain't been done, so.
So, yeah, when we come.
We're like about 5 neighborhoods, that's it. 5 different streets, I think.
Okay.
Everything we complete.
Y'all need to do one other thing. We paid Mr. Hall, I'm looking at it now, 1, 2, 3, 4 different checks. So you need to look at those invoices, make sure that the other.
They're in there.
I understand. All we wanna do is make sure that
Confirm no
there are new
duplications.
invoices, right.
Okay.
That's all.
Point well taken.
What?
One of them was 15,000.
That was for after this.
Yeah.
Yeah, part of, I was gonna not get into this.
I know, but we could talk, this is an issue that we have to go forward and talking about, but I don't feel like tonight that is the issue which is at hand. The issue that is at hand is just, at the end of the day, yeah, at the end of the day, me and Brenda will go check and see, if the invoices add up with JJ. JJ will let us know, and then we just let the mayor, Ms. Johnson, know that he's paid it. I know tree cutting is the issue that we have in front of the city, but I don't think that this item, especially this late at night, that'd be something that's talked about.
My question was, how much money, where's the money coming from, and do we have the money?
It comes from
Street maintenance?
Yeah,
So we
We're
should
good,
have
we're
a
good.
balance.
Yeah, we'll be fine.
it's there, it's $94,000.
That's the number I need.
Okay, item 12, discuss and take possible action on USW operation of the wastewater treatment plant and public works status update. Councilman Rowland.
I just put it on here because this had been thrown out in conversation, and nobody talked to us about it. And so we wanted to figure out, do we have an update? I had been talking with Mr. Boswick, Corey. He's been kind of updating us on some things that needed to happen. He sent me the emails on and been communicated with me, so they've been very open. But we have to have a critical conversation about where currently the City of Prairie View's Public Works is, and with moving forward with USW and some of the things in the direction in which where we need to go. I don't necessarily know if we can't solve that problem tonight, but I wanted to put it on the agenda because Mr. Boswick and Mayor Allen keeps talking about a contract. And we need to have a conversation before a contract comes, because we don't even know the scope of what we're talking about. And so that's part of what this was, and he said we either can do this as a workshop or kind of get an update once those things get worked out. But there's some critical areas in which the potential that's being proposed that we need to have a kind of a conversation about prior to trying to sign a contract. So that was it. And Mr. Boswick is here.
Yeah, the contract is just being prepared. Me and Mr. Bostic have been touching. If I remember right, they're both with our respective lawyers or something.
Yes.
And there's maybe some other details that you guys are working out, benefits type piece, or is that in there already?
Come up real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Good evening, Mayor and the council. I'll only take a second of your time. Currently, the contract is at the attorney's office, and recently we sent over also our pricing model as well for review. And as to what Councilman Rowland was talking about, I know y'all noticed me up here the past couple of weeks trying to spend at least 4 hours a day up here at the city. And some of the things that, we kind of touched on in our conversation with Councilman Rowland, and I'll just kind of briefly go over them. And just beginning with customer service, just me being here, noticing, kind of the flow of work and everything. But 3 things that I've noticed is communication, training, and creating work orders. And I'll just kind of go through this fairly quickly and why it's kind of pressing to kind of get this contract, going and do a workshop if need be. But communicating incoming information to correct personnel, making sure the correct personnel is getting information so that way the process can get rolling. Training, just knowledge of sewer and water ordinances, just being up here listening to some of the phone conversations or customers coming and speaking with customer service. It seems like there could be some additional training on the water and sewer ordinances and some of the fees associated with it. So that way those things can be explained to the customers. We definitely want to make sure that the customers have the knowledge as well. Creating work orders for tracking customer calls, field work, maintenance, inspections, basically anything that comes across from a customer or from engineer, builder, whatever the case may be. We need to definitely create the work order so that way it's in the system and it can be tracked, and we can follow up with it, because at the end of the month, we can run a report, which is open service orders, and we can make sure that we go and capture that information if it hasn't been taken care of yet. Billing, running reports, we can run labor reports, work order summaries, zero usage, exception reports, meter reads, meters over $1 million definitely need to look at. We have a U-Manage system that we can also implement in the city. What that'll do is help with the meter reading process. Right now, some of the reads are coming in at zero usage. There may be like high reads, and we're getting like I'm seeing 3 to 4 sheets of rereads that are having to go out, and that's additional work on Ms. Durham to where she can't get the reports from me in time to create a report for the council for the meeting. So those are the type of processes that we can definitely help put in place once the contract is signed. Closing work orders, making sure that the work orders that are coming in are also getting closed out on the back end. Purchase orders, making sure that purchase orders are getting attached to work orders when materials being purchased, or if outside services are being purchased. System updates, ordinance amendments, and just the ordinance itself, looking at that, making sure that we're updating the system with any type of schedule of rates that are attached to the city's ordinance, and make sure that we get that into the software as well. So that way, anytime there's a specific work order that's done that correlates with the schedule rates, that's automatically attached to that work order, and it can be billed out to the customer. Temporary meters for contractors, this is a big one. As I've been going around the city, I noticed that the contractors that are doing work don't have a temporary meter, so they're just pulling water off the city hydrants and using that water to, get their concrete ready, move dirt, whatever the case may be. That's a lot of accountability, that's a lot of revenue that the city is losing, so we definitely need to get our hands wrapped around that. Builder services and inspections, reviewing plans after submittal for commercial and residential development, customer service inspections, flow testing, grease trap inspections, and pre-construction meetings. These are all services that we really need to get going as well. Just kind of touch on customer service inspections. This also is associated with the city schedule rates. Anytime there's an inspection done, I've already reviewed the ordinances. There's certain rates that are applied to certain inspections, so we need to make sure that that's being captured. Yes, sir.
Could this be a discussion that we, I guess, go into detail like the workshop? I'm pretty sure it's a lot of information which you're trying to tell us in a short bit of time, but knowing that.
Yeah, and Councilman Jones brings up a good point, but weren't the training concerns, because we talked about them going to and training with your customer service lady who came down here, and the billing and the automated stuff, wouldn't all that be alleviated with switching over to the computer program we talked about from Quickwater?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we know we have these issues, but we already had a plan to take care of them once, as you say, the contract is done.
Right.
So we know we got issues, but those two things, we're gonna take care of the majority of what you just shared with us, based on what I understand. Am I right?
Correct.
Okay, so we just need to do the contract thing, and
That's correct.
it'll be a big help to us where we fall short with your system and your people's training and things like that. It would help our people. Okay,
But
let's double check.
the-
Councilman?
The reason why I asked for this to be on the agenda is because we need to, I agree with Councilman Jones, we need to set up a workshop to talk about this in full discussion, because having a contract costs us money. We have some things that we need to work out irregardless of how much money it costs, so that's the contract piece, but there's some inner workings of changing our software. We've talked about our department coming under USW. All those things have impacts on retirement, on cost. And so the time to talk about that is not when the contract's in front of you. And so I will say that, can we get a date? Or when will you be ready to give us some additional information about all the things you just talked about? And we can set up a meeting from there.
Yeah, I was gonna move that you get with him to get that date, and then you send that through email
do that, we could do it now.
Yeah, I would like to go back so that way I can look at my calendar, and I have to make sure that that date correlates with Jeff DuPont, who's over our business development, because he would also need to be here during that conversation.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
No problem.
Item 13, discuss and take action on TCQ investigative report for property located at 44855 Old Houston Highway. Councilman Randall.
So we all received a report from Mr. David. First off, we appreciate you submitting this to us. Attorney, you've seen the letter, correct?
Yes, I have
And
a,
so when we, I don't have to read the letter, we're all educated, we have to understand. But there's some pretty, I guess, serious violations within this letter. So the purpose of this item is to try to figure out what measures the city needs to take going forward as far as corrective measures. So I guess my question is for the city attorney.
I really don't know. I read this letter and it looked to me like it was outside the scope of our jurisdiction because it was violations of TCEQ. And TCEQ is handling the compliance component. I'm not familiar enough with your ordinances to know if they're in violation of any of your ordinances.
So that's what I need to know, if it's the city's responsibility to administer.
No, this is all TCEQs.
So do we follow up with TCEQ
Yes.
following this letter and figure
Yes.
out what was done as far as?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So did you do that for us, Council? or
No,
do we
I would
ask
have
the mayor?
administrative staff handle that.
So do we ask the mayor to?
Yes.
So that should be a motion? Or-
Is that related to water, wastewater?
No, so that's
No,
related to the
it's-
cement.
It looks like it's, no, it's air sources, what it looks like.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was unaware of it, that's why I was, okay.
No, it's all air source issues, not wastewater, wastewater stuff.
Council, do we need to make a motion to ask that the mayor, does this?
If the mayor wants you to, but it's not necessary.
Well,
We just need to
let me-
follow up with.
Yeah,
so-
let me ask you this, the letter from TCEQ to Mr. Leverett is dated May 28th, and it speaks to the corrective action, so I don't know, TCEQ references, 3 violations were noted based upon conditions observed, information and record reviewed.
Right.
But it doesn't really,
It's-
it says submit a written description of corrective action taken and required. So I guess I can check with either TCQ or these folks. It doesn't really say how long TCQ gives them to do it, but I can check. All this happened on May 22nd,
Right.
so it
So
just
we
happened.
just ask you to follow up with TCEQ to make sure that they're, coming up to code. Because we've had numerous meetings in the past where, and we all know about the issues with the dust, so, and that was one of the violations that they listed, so I'm just asking for some follow-up.
Okay, so
Yeah,
we're
'cause-
gonna check on their corrective action and see if it was done.
Right, that's all